What's up, y'all? Welcome in, welcome in. I am real. I am here to be your meister of the story. What's up, Rain? What's up, Hickey? How y'all doing? The dolls are here. Welcome in, y'all. How y'all feeling? Say hey. Stay started, y'all. Probably got a game around like 10, so we got like 30. I'm gonna try to find that spot. Yes, I'm about to. I'm really excited about it. This is my first one. This is kind of like tilt that down a little bit. All right, I think we're good now. How's it sound now, Rain? Thank you for letting me know about it. I appreciate that. But yeah. So I guess I should repeat everything I was saying. But yeah, I'm excited to get into Radical Dreamers because this is like the prequel like game that kind of gives you like story of what's supposed to be going on in Chrono Cross. So I've never played it. This will be my first playthrough on it actually. And then we're gonna roll right into Chrono Cross right after it because I want to play that game again now with this new knowledge that we're gonna be getting through this. I think I'm probably gonna end this thing around like 10:30 because I got plans, and I think maybe like a little 2 hours. I don't know. I feel like this game is probably like a 4 hour thing. I don't know, but we'll see. I think you can like save it. I'm gonna try to get to like Friday, get the stream, and then come follow up with it. But we'll see what we can do. Yeah, it was good to see you, Hecate Rain. Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate y'all so much. If y'all didn't hear me with the music over, but yeah, thank you guys for being here. And honestly, let's if y'all ain't got much to say right now, we can go on and jump right into it. But I definitely want to take a little moment to say hey to y'all. Hope y'all doing well. Hopefully things are going on. It's the middle of the week. Wishing you blessings into the following end of it. Oh yeah, and just to reiterate, I'm probably not gonna be reading chat like during this because I'm gonna put this on YouTube just so like if I guess for people want to like listen to it like uninterrupted like with like banter and stuff like that. Because I don't, it's not voice acting, so I don't know. I feel like some people might enjoy the fact that you just like hear the story and I'll just like just narrate it. Shoot, this could be a precursor to me being a narrator. This might be kind of cute. Honestly, I low-key, I feel like I like doing story time reads and stuff like that. So honestly, I'll do it if they have like other visual novels and shit like that. I'll read that too. It gotta be something interesting. Otherwise, it won't have no oomph in it. But yeah, let me just go on and get started, y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Get going, baby. Y'all ready? I am. All right, let's get it started. So I'm gonna put on the full screen game. And let's do this, y'all. Hold on. All right, so we do Radical Dreamers. All right, Square Enix. Presented by the Radical Dreamers. It all began with the notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it while cleaning out the closet. This old notebook, covered with mold, was a diary that belonged to my grandfather who passed away years ago. It contained his distant memories. I wonder if you still remember how we first met in our many adventures. It all seemed like a dream. We ran like the wind during those warm, sun summer days long ago. You were a piece of a star that fell from the sky. I can still relive the memories of those days long past, just by closing my eyes like so, whispering your name into the desolate night. Kid. 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 Hey, kid. Are you ready, kid? I know you're anxious. Stay on your toes. Yeah, likewise, mate. You mess up, and I'm leaving you behind. Got that, Surge? Come on, Magil. That bastard's Lynx is gonna get what he deserves. Say your prayers. Not that it'll do you any good. It all began with the notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it while cleaning out the closet. Oh, wait a minute. Was that the, oh, well, that was just the intro. I ain't even start the game. Oh, man. Well, oh, well. Hey, what's up, Spoon Mage? How you doing, baby? Oh, no, I'm just reading this on this stream. I'm gonna put it on YouTube. Let's see. Hold on, I'll say hey again because I probably have to cut that out anyway. Let's see. All right. Okay, I think we started. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, I guess I have to enter a name. We can leave that as Surge. Okay, now we're started. The old lady's tip-off was right on the money. The counterspell on the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kid's plain, unadored braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of the manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were the three of us, Kid, Magil, and me. I guess it must have been 3 years already since I first met Kid. Back then, I was just a wandering musician, traveling wherever my feet would take me, and wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. It was in the Outlands, in a town called Regiora, when we first ran across one another. And since then, she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures, and misadventures too. Ah, Kid. She was a thief, not just any thief. Just a few months shy of 17, and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, and a joy to be around, and a dab hand at campsite cooking, so like she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold you've learned about in stories, the ones who steal from the rich and give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't Kid style. She was a short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money. And rarely did she care to listen to a single word anyone said to her. But she wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes. She had her moments anyway. I glanced over my shoulder and see a shadow hovering behind us, blending into the darkness like smoke. Magil, also known as Magil the Shade. He was Kid's partner, but even after 3 years, I still knew hardly anything about him. All I knew is that he was around 30 years old and not much of a talker, but he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kid had started working together way before I met her. He always covered the top of half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it would sometimes seem like he was an interloper from another world. It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but Magil, he might as well not have had one. Kid didn't seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of man he was, what kind of life he lived before nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I guess you could say that if life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will. Kid, who was heading up our little raiding party, suddenly stopped dead. Look lively, boys. We got company. We glanced around warily as cold, cruel eyes emerged from the darkness. I heard a low growl. Dark shadows prowled through the night surrounding us. A pack of wildcats! There must have been about 10 of them. A thrill of fear ran down my spine. Flustered, I pulled my knife from my belt. Kid calmly shifted into a fighting stance. Watch yourselves. I don't reckon these buggers have treated for rape thieves. The wildcats snarled and growled as they slowly closed in on us, drawing the noose tighter and tighter. Their eyes glinted in the darkness like fireflies, and strings of eager spittle dripped from wetly to the ground. Then one of them sent an almighty roar soaring to the moon. The hunt was on. What was I going to do? I feel like we should. Let's attack. I slashed at a nearby wildcat with my knife. The beast tried to leap clear, but I was already too close. I felt the blade make contact and was rewarded with a screech of pain. The wildcat jumped away, this time managed to pull some space between us. It looked like I hadn't cut it very deep. I stood my ground, changed my grip on the knife, and waited for another chance to attack. Surge! Behind you! Panicked Kid warning. I whirled wildly around and came face to face with a pair of eyes blazing like hellfire. I defended myself. There wasn't much time to do anything but try to protect myself. In a moment of sheer desperation, I crossed my arms to guard my face. Instantly, I felt the wildcat's fangs sink into my exposed wrist. I had thrown itself bodily at me, bowling me over backwards. Ah! My arms still in powerful jaws, the wildcat pinned me to the ground and shook his head. I tried desperately to free myself, but it was clamped onto me like a bear trap, and there was no way of getting loose. The sound of a fang on bone was sickening. But just then, the creature recoiled with a screech. Kid had buried her knife deep into its guts. She quickly capitalized on its terror by giving it an almighty kick. Free of the wildcat, I staggered to my feet, holding the throbbing wound on my arm. I was breathing heavily. The handle of my knife was slick with sweat, and I tightened my grip. With a kick of love like a bolt with lightning, Kid landed a clean hit on the flank of the nearby wildcat. I staggered before losing its footing, letting out a pathetic cry. But Kid had already moved in to finish it off. And then the roar of fire. A burning smell filled my nostrils, and next to me, a shrill screech pierced the air. I fled, darting off into the darkness like an arrow. scanned the area. Only moments ago we had been surrounded, but now there wasn't a single wildcat left. Kid and Magil had either sent the rest off with their tails between their legs, or put paid to them once and for all. Ha! You're dreaming if you think a pack of flea-midden moggies is gonna stop us, Lynx. Kid crossed her arms and flashed a triumphant grin. Meanwhile, I was panting heavily, and it felt like my legs were about to give out from under me. I collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed by what I'd just been through. Woo! It had taken a few hits, but I was fine otherwise. A couple of scars to talk about later, maybe, but nothing that would stop me carrying on. Are you hurt? And Jill looked at me, his face expressionless as ever. No worries, Mag. He'll be alright, Sig. Oh, no worries, Mag. He'll be alright, said Kid, barging in and getting a better look at me. He may be a winging sook, but it'll take more than a few scratches to kill this one. She was nothing if not sympathetic, but she was right. There was no time to be bemoaning my lot. We hadn't even reached the manor yet. I dabbed at my wounds with the tinctured soap cloth and wrapped them with bandages, then looked up at the other two. We're just getting started, I grinned back, putting a brave face on things. That's what I like to hear, Kid cheered, announced from the closed quarters. But then her eyes turned cold, like the cool glow of the moon in the night sky. It's gonna be a long night. I nodded, trying my hardest not to utterly lose myself in her pale blue eyes. All right, let's get this show back on the road. She turned away and marched off deeper into the trees, without looking behind to see if Magil were following her. Magil, of course, was already right behind her, his unhurried gait making it seem as though nothing much happened at all. I jumped back up to my feet to chase after them, being for even more trouble than I'd bargained for if I got separated from them. The dark forest inside the manor's perimeter seemed to go on forever, a labyrinth of trees and boulders. The manor itself loomed in the distance, glowering over the vast grounds, and hidden within was a veritable mountain of treasure, just waiting for us. Lord Lynx was the noble who ruled the remote territory of Regoria. He was also Kid's mortal enemy. We were there that night to steal a certain jewel he kept locked away in his most closely guarded vault, the Frozen Flame. Frozen Flame was veiled in mystery. It was said to be imbued with an uncanny energy, imposed of a beauty and clarity that made it priceless treasure. Countless thieves had tried to steal it, and not one of them had come close to succeeding. Nor had any of them escaped the manor alive. And now it was our turn to try and sneak into the place of death. Led by a girl who had the ambition of making the impossible impossible, a hunger for vengeance that drove her onward, and a desire for riches that could never be satisfied. As we passed on through the tree-filled darkness, the shadows gave away at last, revealing the true extent of the vast mansion. Finally, say your prayers, Lynx, because we're coming for you. Keeping to the overgrowth and the shadows of the trees, we made our way around the manor walls in search of means of entry. Eventually, we came to a terrace overlooking the garden. There was no sign of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the manor was an uncanny stillness. This will lead us straight to the West Wing, just as well. We don't have any business in the rest of the manor tonight. Oh, that's what you gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. All right then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to the vault over the railing of the terrace. Stop! Magio hissed sharply. Remember what we're here for. Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focus on the above all else. Your vengeance is of secondary concern. Agreed? Glancing over her shoulder, Kid replied with a reluctant, Yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drogo's block off, and neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. I guess Kid was going to get her way whether we liked it or not. Let's go, boys. The night is young. She cleared the railing with a springy hop and vanished inside the manor. I glanced towards Magio and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead and were soon inside Lord Lynx's lair. Darkness swallowed us whole. I wanted to make a joke, but let's go to YouTube. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. We decided to go to the left down the corridor. We pressed on through the darkness, down corridors that turned and twisted, snake-like, this way and that. Everything around us was still and silent. It felt strangely like we were being watched. We continued creepingly cautiously down the corridors. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat stalking its prey, while in the shadows, Magio followed, gliding swiftly and silently into the sinister breeze. We pressed on to the embrace of the Weaver of Fate. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. Something like a thick haze floated in the air in front of us. And then it took form, like someone blowing smoke into a person-shaped bottle. It was robed in a ragged shroud, and its sunken eyes glinted menacingly. It was the burning hatred that lingered even after the death-given form, a being driven by a hatred of all living things. A ghost bugger. That's us out. Kid bit her lip. There wasn't anything she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. A voice boomed out behind me. Magio had begun casting a spell. I jumped behind Magio. I knew it was The ghost took advantage of my bewilderment to draw nearer. Or rather, its body, did you call it a body? Expanded, consuming the entire. The core of the ghost, where its face seemed to be, had more substance than the rest of it. And I didn't just slip through it like I thought I would. I oozed through it like I was stuck in some kind of goo. Ye gods, it was disgusting. More disgusting than anything I'd ever known. And it was impossibly cold. It felt like it was draining all of the heat right out of my blood. Like it was draining my life force itself, in fact. I struggled to break free, but I could find no purchase in it. The gooey ectoplasm. The piercing chill became all the more bitter, so much so that it didn't even know what cold meant. I could vaguely make out Kid and Magio through the ghost's body. What were they doing? Things were looking pretty bad for me. Serge, when I say Kid, what are the first words that come to mind, Sex Magio? I was suddenly snapped out of the haze. The bane of my existence, I answered immediately. What if I answered my mind gone completely? Just then, something surged into my consciousness. Words of power filled my mind with an almost physical force. It was Magio. He was using my mind as a conduit to attack the ghost on the astral plane. With an explosion of energy, unutterably Unpronounceable words of power filled my surroundings and blasted away the cold haze. My head felt like it was going to boil from the blazing heat that surged through it. Surge! Oi, Surge! You still with us, mate? Someone was slapping me around the face. Someone who seemed to be enjoying it immensely. I leapt to my feet, wide awake again in an instant. Mag, did you really just have to use me like that? When dealing with foes who attack the mind, it is simply to lure them out with bait, then use their unintended prey's consciousness as a conduit in order to make an assault from the astral plane. A direct magical attack would have meant a lengthy battle. A far less elegant solution, he replied without a trace of guilt. All right, let's keep it moving. Kid gave the other order to continue, seemingly completely oblivious to my brush with death. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Maybe you ain't such a drogo after all. Just goes to show you any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eye glinted with mischief. We took the corridor leading from the left-handed side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs, and the path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onward. We continued onward. We continued onward past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into a main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. We went inside. Kid gently pushed the heavy doors open and peeked inside. Doesn't look like anyone's in there. It seemed to be the main hall of the manor. There was a massive table, beautiful decorations on the wall, and thick columns decorated with sculptures of birds and beasts. Fixed to the wall in the back towered a tremendous pipe organ like a burnished black mountain. Dozens of candles proved a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of its shadow. Several enormous portraits glowered down from the high on the wall. Were these members of Lynx's family? I was busy staring at the painting depicting a young husband and wife. Then I realized that their eyes had turned to look right at me. Okay, they hadn't. Don't worry. This isn't about to turn into some dumb ghost story. It just looked that way because of the way the flickering lights of the candles reflected against the glossy old paints. Obviously. Probably. This place gives me the creeps, and get a load of all those ugly mugs. There's nothing for us here. Let's look elsewhere. Neither Majir nor I had any objections. We left the hall and returned to the corridor. Eventually, that led us to an intersection. There were some stairs going down to the right, a dark-sided passage. If we keep going straight on, we'll arrive to the terrace. We went down the stairs. Slowly, we crept down the stairs, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued on to an atrium and resembled a sort of a plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into the darkness. We went to the atrium on the left. Kid poked her head through the arch-shaped door and took a look around. Oh, it's big in here. Must be some kind of hall. We took a cautious look around and then entered one after another. The atrium was like a beautiful plaza, complete with a statue that doubled as a fountain. Pillars of an arched lined the wall, and in the center was a small pool of clear water, above which the statue stood. On the other side of the room, I could see another arched entrance like the one we had come through. Whoa, that's cold! The kid was scooping up water from the fountain. We went over to her and, resting my hand on the edge of the marble basin, peered into the pool beneath. Shadows flickered under the water's surface. You reckon those fish are rare? As invaluable? Kid leaned right over the ridge. I couldn't see the bottom. I wondered how deep it was. The shadow of one of the fish grew larger and larger. Whoa! Sensing danger, Kid leapt back from the edge. Clack! A fish leapt out from the water and snapped at her, its jaws bristling with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth closed shut on the air, where she'd only been moments before, and with a splash, the fish darted back under the water. Pteranodons, deadly carnivorous fish with the razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws that could snap a monster's horn in half. Staring in horror, I watched as dark shadows began to gather in what little of the pool I could make out. The pteranodons must have detected prey. Soon, the room was filled with the sound of splashing and snapping as the fish teemed at the water surface. Bloody hell! Even Kid was uneasy. She took another step back. How many pteranodons was in the pool? The thought that would happen if they had all leapt clear of the water and attacked at once crossed my mind. A bead of cold sweat rolled down my forehead. Suddenly, the water coming from the statue turned crimson. It shot out in a powerful jet that nearly touched the ceiling. Kid jumped back again. I stood in shock, watching the torrent of water erupting from the statue. The scarlet waters continued to gush out from the fountain. The pool grew redder and redder and started to overflow. We looked on entranced, but the spell was soon broken when we realized that the water was starting to flow faster and faster over the rim of the basin. The pteranodons began to jump and snap at the water surface with bloodthirsty glee. I was brought to my senses by the dull slapping sound of the pteranodons hitting the floor. We rushed back to the exit on the other side. Quick, there's an exit on the other side. I pointed at the doorway opposite where we come in. I tried my hardest to rush across the red pool, sending up great gouts of crimson water, but it was as thick as blood, and I found myself struggling to move. I felt the sharp jabs of searing pains as countless pteranodons snapped at my lip. Kid gritted her teeth in pain. Surge, we gotta do something before we get turned into mincemeat. What was I going to do? We had to get to the other side. We desperately tried to wade towards the exit opposite us. The water was already up to my waist. A strange smell like warm meat rose from the water surface. Ah! I yelped as my left thigh and my right ankle simultaneously erupted with pain. It was still a long way to the exit on the opposite side. What was I going to do? Deal with the fish. What? You want to try and pick these little ones up off one by one? Kid glared back at me, her face a picture of exasperated disbelief. Don't be a bloody idiot, Surge. You want to die here? While I stood there, my mouth agape, a pteranodon sank its teeth into my foot. A jolt of pain surged off my leg, making me jump. What was I going to do? We need to get to the other side. That's right, the fish weren't going to stop me. We desperately tried to wade towards the exit opposite us. The water was already up to my waist. A strange smell like a warm meat rose from the water surface. Countless pteranodons were tearing at my leg, and the bites burned like fire. It was still a long way to the exit on the opposite side. What are we going to do? No, that's right, the fish weren't going to stop me. We desperately tried to wade towards the exit opposite us. The water was already up to my waist. A strange smell like... Okay, it looks like we gotta leave. I lost my footing and crashed face first into the water. A red haze drifted down to fill my eyes, and a swarm of hungry pteranodons all piled in at once. Kid's scream grew more and more distant as my consciousness plummeted into a bottomless darkness. Did I die? Damn. And that was how I died. Damn. What's up, y'all? Well, that wasn't a great run. Well, if I still didn't get to say it earlier, what's up, Numi, Will, Lonnie, how y'all doing? Heckett, DJ, Lonnie, welcome in. Well, I guess we should start this again. Change section. Auto text. Okay, damn, I can't. So apparently you can die. Well, that was the first attempt. Let's try this again. Should I read all of this again? Okay. I didn't think this was a game you could die in. So I didn't factor that in. So I don't know how I'm gonna do this on YouTube. But I guess I'm not gonna read that part again. Well, fuck it. Kids playing Unadora Blade, blah blah blah. We read that. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of the Manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were three of us, Kid, Majil, and me. I wish there was like saving points. I guess it must have been 3 years already since I first met Kid. Back then, I was just a wandering musician. I traveled wherever my feet would take me, wherever a few tunes would pay for my warm bed. Or maybe I should just do a stream and then I'll just end the stream if I die. And I guess the one where I actually stay alive, maybe I'll just use that as like the VOD that I want to put on YouTube. Something tells me I'm gonna die again. So the next death, I think I'll just end the stream and then I'll come back and we'll just keep doing these streams until we get through the story. You know what I mean? Oh man, I died super fast on this one. How long have I been streaming for? Like 30 minutes? 30 minutes? Alright. Well, I guess what I'll do is yeah, we'll just keep this up. Alright. Wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. It was on the Outlands, a town called Regiora. There, we first ran across one another, and since then, she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures, and misadventures too. Ah, Kid, she was a thief. Not just any thief. Just a few months shy of 17, and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, and a joy to be around, and a dab hand at campsite cooking. So like she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold you heard about in stories, the ones who steal from the rich and give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't Kid style. She was short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money. And rarely did she care to listen to the single word anyone said to her. But she wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes she had her moments anyway. I glanced over my shoulder to see a shadow hovering behind us, blending to the darkness like smoke. Majil, also known as Majil the Shade. He was Kid's partner, but even after 3 years, I still knew hardly anything about him. All I knew was that he was around 30 years old, and not much of a talker. But he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kid had started working together way before I met her. He always covered the top half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it seemed like he was an interloper from another world. It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but Majil, he might as well not have had one. Kid didn't seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of man he was, what kind of life he'd lived before. Nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I guess you could say that life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will. Kid who was heading up our little raiding party suddenly stopped dead. Look lively, boys. We got company. We glanced around, cruel eyes emerged from the darkness. I heard a low growl. Dark shadows prowled through the night surrounding us. A pack of wildcats! There must have been about 10 of them. A thrill of fear ran down my spine. Flustered, I pulled my knife from my belt. Kid calmly shifted into a fighting stance. Watch yourselves. I don't reckon these buggers have been treated for rabies. The wildcats snarled and growled as they slowly closed in on us, drawing the noose tighter and tighter. Their eyes glinted in the darkness like fireflies, and strings of eager spittle dripped wetly to the ground. Then one of them sent an almighty roar soaring to the moon. The hunt was on. What was I going to do? I defended myself. What the hell are you doing, Surge? Oh, incoming. The Kid nimbly twisted her body to dodge the incoming wildcat's attack, then slammed her fist into the side of the beast's head. It gave a wounded cry, and while the blow wasn't fatal, it collapsed to the ground and twitched with pain. Surge, behind you! Panicked by Kid's warning, I whirled wildly around and came face to face with a pair of eyes blazing like hellfire. I defended myself. There wasn't time to do anything but try and protect myself. In the moment of sheer desperation, I crossed my arms and guarded my face. Instantly, I felt the wildcat's fangs sink into my exposed wrist. It had thrown its body at me, bowling me over backwards. Ugh! My arms still in the powerful jaws, the wildcat pinned me to the ground and shook its head. I tried desperately to feed myself, but it was clamped onto me like a bear trap, and there was no way of getting loose. The sound of fang on bone was sickening, but just then the creature recoiled with a screech. Kid had buried her knife deep into its guts. She quickly capitalized on its terror by giving it an almighty kick. Free of the wildcat, I staggered to my feet, holding the throbbing wound in my arm. I was breathing heavily. The handle of my knife was slick with sweat, and I tightened my grip. With a kick like a bolt of lightning, Kid landed a clean hit on the flank of a nearby wildcat. It staggered before losing its footing, letting out a pathetic cry. But Kid had already moved in to finish off. And then the roar of fire. A burning smell filled my nostrils, and next to me, a shrill screech pierced the air. Magil's fire spell engulfed the head of the nearby wildcat. It fled, darting off into the darkness like an arrow. I scanned the area. Only moments ago we had been surrounded, but now there wasn't a single wildcat left. Kid and Magil had either sent the rest off with their tails between their legs or paid to them once and for all. Ha! You're dreaming if you think a pack of flea-bitten moggies is gonna stop us, Lynx. Kid crossed her arms and flashed a triumphant grin. Meanwhile, I was panting heavily. It felt like my legs were about to give out from under me. I collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed by what I'd just been through. Oof! I'd taken a few hits, but I was fine otherwise. A couple of scars to talk about later. Maybe, but nothing that would stop me carrying on. Are you hurt? Magil looked at me, his face expressionless as ever. No worries, man. He'll be all right, said Kid, barging in to get a better look at me. He may be a winging soot, but it'll take more than a few scratches to kill this one. She was nothing if not sympathetic. But she was right. There was no time to be bemoaning my lot. We hadn't even reached the manor yet. I dabbed at my wounds with a tincture-soaked cloth and wrapped them with bandages, then looked up at the other two. We're just getting started, I grinned back, putting a brave face on things. That's what I'd like to hear, Kid cheerily announced from close quarters. But then her eyes turned cold, like the cool glow of the moon in the night sky. It's gonna be a long night. I nodded, trying my hardest not to utterly lose myself in her pale blue eyes. All right, let's get this show back on the road. She turned away and marched off deeper into the trees, without looking behind to see if me and Magil were following her. Magil, of course, was already right behind her, his unhurried gait making it seem as though nothing much had happened at all. I jumped back to my feet to chase after them. I'd be in for even more trouble than I bargained for if I gotten separated from them. The dark forest inside the manor's perimeter seemed to go on forever, a labyrinth of trees and boulders. The manor itself loomed in the distance, glowering over the vast grounds and hidden within a veritable mountain of treasure, just waiting for us. Lord Lynx was the noble who ruled the remote territory of Regoria. He was also Kid's mortal enemy. We were there that night to steal a certain jewel he kept locked away in his most closely guarded vault. Frozen Flame. Frozen Flame was veiled in mystery. It was said to be imbued with an uncanny energy and possessed of a beauty that clarity that made it a priceless treasure. Countless thieves had tried to steal it, and none of them had come close to succeeding, nor had any of them escaped the manor alive. And now it was our turn to try and sneak into this place of death. Led by a girl who had the ambition to make the impossible possible, a hunger for vengeance that drove her onward, and a desire for riches that could never be satisfied. As we pressed through the tree-filled darkness, the shadows gave way at last, revealing the true extent of the vast mansion. Finally, say your prayers, Lynx, because we're coming for you. Keeping to the overgrowth and the shadows of the trees, we made our way around the manor walls in search of a means of entry. Eventually, we came to a terrace overlooking the garden. There was no sign of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the manor was an uncanny stillness. This will lead us straight to the west wing, just as well. Oh, don't we have any business? We don't have any business in the rest of the manor tonight, said Magio, gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. All right then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to vault over the railing of the terrace. Stop! Magio hissed sharply. Remember what we're here for. Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focused on this above all else. Your vengeance is of secondary concern. Agreed. Glancing over her shoulder, Kid replied with a reluctant, Yeah. Don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drogo's block off. And neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. I guess Kid was going to get her way, whether we liked it or not. Let's go, boys. The night is young. She cleared the railing and with a spritty hop and vanished inside the manor. I glanced myself towards Magio and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead and we're soon inside of Lord Lynx's lab. The darkness swallowed us whole. Corridor stretched off to the left, right from the terrace. We seemed to be equally dark and chilly in both directions. We pressed on through the darkness, down the corridors that turned and twisted snake-like. This way and that, everything around us was still and silent, and it felt strangely like we were being watched. It was as if countless eyes were staring silently from the shadows. We continued creepingly, cautiously down the corridors. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat stalking its prey, while in the shadows, Magio followed, gliding swiftly and silently like a sinister breeze. We pressed on into the embrace of the Weavers of Faith. A short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. Kid pressed the ear against it, listening for any signs of light. Dead quiet. Don't reckon there's anybody in there. We opened the door. In we go. Kid stilled her breath and reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. It swung open, slowly open. What's this room supposed to be? Place is a dump. Kid had poked her head through the door, taking a quick peek to see if there was anyone inside, and was disappointed by what she found. The room was large and littered with peculiar-looking machinery and knickknacks, all of which were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped here haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been there rusting for a very long time. The ends of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell how big it was, or even what the walls and floor looked like. It seemed the manor's inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage base some time ago. I stepped warily inside. Leave that alone. I looked over towards Magil and saw Kid trying to pull something from the shadows. It was a huge sword that appeared to be very old indeed. You don't need that old bludgeon. It'll only get in the way. And as much of the antique as it was, it won't fit much on the market in that condition. Yeah, reckon that it might, you know? There's plenty of collectors who just love old bits of junk. Well, some old bits of junk. Pouting, Kid left the sword where she stood. At least she put it back down gently. It was then that we heard a voice from the shadows. And what exactly are you doing here? I just about jumped out of my skin. Who's there? Kid and Magil turned to face the voice, ready for it. A wizened crone emerged from the shadows. She was hunched over, wore a hood draped over her face. I could tell at a glance that she wasn't just old. She was positively ancient. It's just some doddery old bag. What do you think you're doing sneaking up on us like that? Kid's shoulders relaxed as the tension left her body. Jill, however, continued to give the woman a piercing stare. Hoo-hoo! What an impish little thing you are. Here to visit a friend, perhaps? Not in the dead of night, I suspect. The crone narrowed her eyes. Let's get a closer look at you. Ah, yes. You must be here to get your revenge on Lynx. My heart jumped. She seemed to know exactly who we were. We were in trouble. What if she sounded the alarm? We'd have to give up on the treasure and run for our lives. What were we to do? I'd finally tell her she was right. So what if we are? Kid narrowed her eyes right back at the crone. What's it to you if we're here to get our revenge on old Lynxy boy? You gonna do something about that? You never changed, did you? The crone chuckled madly, smile frame shaking. Ah, the boldness of youth. Yes, that's the spirit. You what? He had looked at the crone, completely confused. I was no less mystified. What the heck are you on about? Oh, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, it was around then that an innocent young thief stole into the manor, looking to singe Lord Lynx's whiskers. She couldn't have been much older than 10, now that I think of it. Shocked, my gaze turned to Kid. A wet glint had appeared in Kid's eyes, but her glaze was like ice. Her glare was like ice. It suddenly felt as if the temperature in the room had suddenly dropped below freezing. Suddenly, with a chuckle, the crone continued her story, pretending to not notice the change in mood. She was an orphan, you know? Came after Lynx to avenge a woman who loved her like her own daughter. But all the vengefulness in the world couldn't change the fact that she was only a little girl. She was no match for Lynx's men, sadly, and they quickly captured her. Lynx is the kind of man one would fear if they had to have for an ally, never mind a foe. Had it not been for the timely assistance of a friend of hers, the girl would have certainly been executed. The way the people of the manor told it, the very shadows pitied the girl and rushed in to spirit her away. I wonder how much her tale could be true. I have nothing but sympathy for those who know failure. Of course, you can't win all the time. And sometimes, against all the odds, fate really could be foiled, and the clockwork of history sent into disarray. No, the ones I have no patience for are those who do not recognize their failure, or who fail to choose to give up as a result. The crone looked up from her hood, stared at Kid directly in the face, and grinned. Kid's anger faded, giving way to a dumbfounded expression. If you wish to steal the jewel from Lynx, if you truly wish to triumph, you will have to let go of a treasure of your own, Kid. For as long as you cling on to it, the hands of your clock will never move. They'll stay exactly where they came to rest all those years ago. Who are you? Oh, me? Why, I'm just an old hag, like you said. I do apologize if I must have taken up a lot of your time with all my babbling. I'll leave you in peace. Oh, but before I go, Crone turned to face me. You seem to be injured, young man. If you wish, I could take a look at your wounds. With all that attention suddenly towards me, I panicked a little. All right then, please do. What? All right then. Please do. The crone muttered a few words as her bony fingers drew sigils in the air. A pale, gentle light began to surround my body, filling me with a strange warmth. Strike a light. That's no ordinary spell. Kid was impressed. I felt my wounds healing and heard a nostalgic melody that soothed the wounds in my heart. Before I realized it, the crone was gone. Hey! Hey! Lady! Kid strained her eyes, scanning the darkness, but there was no one to be seen. Her calls went unanswered. What the bloody heck was that? Kid looked like she had just woken up on the floor of the laughing pig after a few too many. And what does she mean about having to let go of a treasure? Well, we won't find any answers here. Time to move on, Magil. Oh, well, we won't find any answers here. Time to move on. Magil brought us back down to earth, emotionless as always. It almost seemed as if you thought nothing had happened at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. Kid walked quickly to the door, keen to move on. Hold it, you! Just as I was about to follow Kid out of the room, she jabbed me in the side with her elbow. You stingy little bugger, Surge. Why didn't you tell her to share some of that healing magic with the rest of us? Classic Kid. Alright, I guess we back in the corridor now. The door led back to the corridor, which stretched off to the left and the right. Right away lay the depths of the manor, while the way to the left led to the terrace. Continue down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. Well, this door clearly meant to keep something safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, my name ain't Kid. Yep, that smell of cold, hard cash, all right, we muttered herself. She began to inspect the door more closely. We went inside. Oop. Bah! What am I, stupid? Of course it's bloody locked. Kid had tried the door handle a few times before giving it a grumpy kick. Bloody door's got a magic barrier on it. And the bloody barrier's got a barrier of its own to boot. It'll take more on putting on the boot to get through that. I see. Now, unless we find the key, I don't think we have a hope of getting inside. Reckon I can handle a key hunt, especially if it's that idiot Lynx who hidden it. If we can find his room, I'll sniff it out in 2 seconds flat. Just you watch. There was a little more we could do here, so we decided to look elsewhere. We continued on. The corridor ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed upstairs. It was dark and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. The stone of the steps was worn smooth with age, and I lost count of how many there were as we spiraled onward and upward. An awful sense of foreboding haunted me. I had no idea why, but it felt as though we were marching to the gallows. When we arrived at the top of the stairs, we were greeted by an old heavy door, looming in silence. It was deathly silent, and the still, clammy air added to the sense of the ominous apprehension. Something's very wrong here, I muttered without thinking. I hear cursing whispers from beyond the door. Magil added, Doing nothing to lift the mood. Ah, grow up, will ya? Kid shot back at us, derisively. Ooh, I gotta look that word up. She was already examining the door. Well, it ain't locked. I don't hear anyone inside. We went inside. All right, here it goes. Kid tried the handle. The door opened, and with a slow, heavy swing, revealed what lay behind. It was a small cylindrical room that appeared to be inside one of the stone towers. It was completely deserted. There were no windows. What's that supposed to be? Something about this place gives me the creeps. Still standing in the doorway, Kid seemed suddenly taken aback. There might be something in here. Let's take a closer look. A closer look at the bloody empty room? Pah! Might as well, I guess. We didn't climb all them stairs. We did climb all them stairs. Kid stepped through the door, grumbling under her breath. I scanned the room, and then noticed something on the floor. The flagstones were covered in dozens of narrow scratches, and in places there were thick black stains. Something in the stains spoke of a horror that no amount of scrubbing would ever wash away. A malice and a sadness beyond imagining. There's something written here. Crouching in front of a wall, Magil was inspecting some brownish markings that looked like more of the same stains. Someone's carved letters into the walls and scrambled them up using blood magic? Kid had gone over to take a look. Looks pretty old, hard to read too. Some of it's been worn away. Let's see. I cannot hold on much longer. My only hope now is to leave the Acian signet in this room. The Acian signet? Suddenly, the door slammed shut. We jumped to our feet with a start. From above us, we heard an unsettling creaking sound. The walls and floor began to tremble. What the hell's going on? Kid's eyes darted around the room as she desperately tried to figure out what was happening. The creaking sound from above continued, and the ceiling moved ominously closer. Up there! Oh! Oh, I don't like that. We walked right up into a bloody trap. Kid bit her lip. We gotta do something and fast. We don't have time to sit and think about this. Smashed down the wall, barged the door down. Kid sprang to the door like an arrow, slamming into the shoulder first, but it was far too heavy and her light frame bounced right off of it. Damn it! Magio raced towards the door like a wind, smashing into it with ferocious force. It made a creaking sound and shook from the impact, but stood firm. Desperately, I heard myself at it too. The shock of the impact rushed through my body, but was no good. Meanwhile, the rusty creaky from the above continued, as did the ceiling's inexorable journey downward. And to make matters worse, now countless blades were popping in and out. Surge, Magio, this is gonna take three of us. Teaming our blows, we all charged at the door at once. Once, twice, and a third time, and then the door was open and we were collapsed in the heap of the corridor outside. Whoa! Behind us, we heard the sound of a blading ceiling grinding on the stone floor of the tower room. The metallic scraping noise it made was awful. We could only look on in silent horror at the fate we so narrowly evaded. Jesus. The machinery continued for a short while before slowly coming to a stop. It seemed the ceiling trap had finally finished its grisly work. Bugger me! Talk about a nasty surprise. Is it some sort of execution chamber? Oh, is it some sort of execution chamber? Magio continued, seeming to be deep in thought. In any case, that writing mentioned Acacia? I think that's how you say it. Yeah, what was all of that about, I asked. The Acacia Dragoons, the elite knightly order serving General Viper, one who governed the territory of Galesboro to the west. Former knightly order, I should say. They were wiped out more than a decade ago by the lord of this very manor, no less. Thanks for the history lesson, Mag. Kid rose to her feet, patting off the dust. Too bad we're not here for the fairy tale nights. Come on, we got a lot more exploring to do. Magio shrugged silently, and we headed back to the stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed downstairs. We went down the stairs and continued straight ahead, eventually come across a sturdy-looking door on our right. The corridor continued back on further back towards the terrace. We went inside. Oh, is this the one that's still not locked? Bah! What am I stupid? Of course it's bloody locked. Alright, it'll take more than putting the boot on it to get me through it. I see. Then, unless we find the key we don't have a hope of getting inside, reckon I can handle a key hunt, especially if it's that idiot Lynx who's hidden it. I'll snip it out in 2 seconds flat, just you watch. Then there's little more we can do here, so we decided to look somewhere else. We went back. Let's go to the corridor again. We continued down the corridor, eventually come across the door at our left. The corridor continued back towards the terrace. We continued on. After a short walk down the corridor, the terrace came into view. We went out into the terrace. We returned to the quiet terrace overlooking the garden, and then talked to Magio. Doing well tonight, Surge. You're less green than when we first met. What I could see of Magio's face betrayed no emotion, but I thought I could feel the faintest of friendly gazes from beneath the mask. Right, dust yourself off and let's get moving. We've got work to do, said Kid. Oh, Kid. Well, she said. All right, Surge, you're finally starting to learn how to get your hands dirty, ain't you? I guess people really can change if they put effort in it. Kid's eyes shone with an impish playfulness. Well, she hadn't seen anything yet. We should go back inside. We're not here for fun, muttered Majil. Well, he said that, but he went into the manor. The corridor stretched off into the left and right. Let's go to the left. Wait a minute, did I go? I went to the left last time. A short way. Okay, we did this already. We turn back. Let's go back and we go to the left. We took the corridor leading from the left-handed side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down to the stairs, and the path to the left was a dark passage side. Then the main corridor continued straight outward. Let's continue onward. Kid stepped in her tracks, signaling us with a hand behind her back. She drew her knife and stared into the darkness. We heard the clinking of a metal from just up ahead. Goblin guards. It wasn't likely there'd be anyone else going for a nighttime stroll around the manor wearing armor. I suggested I drew my knife and readied myself. I'd pick up on the situation pretty quickly and drew my knife, preparing for a fight. Kid gave me a sideways glance. You know something? You're starting to look like a real thief. Now you just need to walk the walk, she grinned. All right, Serge, Majil, let's get him. Kid leapt forward, confident as ever. It was like she thought nothing could go wrong. There were 5 of them in total. They weren't any ordinary goblins, though. Having been well looked after in this palatial manner, they'd grown to be even bigger than Majil. Each of them was carrying a manor goblin's trademark, a morning star consisting of a rod and a heavy spiked iron ball on a chain. Wait, or is it a flail? I never could remember, and I didn't have time to think much more about it. A goblin came rushing at me, swinging its spiked ball and chain overhead. I jumped back to evade the attack. The iron ball crashed into the stone tile I was standing on only moments before crushing it. Had I tried to stop it with my knife, I would have been lucky to escape with the fractured skull. I drove my knife toward the goblin's chest. I seized the opportunity and tried to thrust my knife into the goblin's chest, only to stab it squarely in the gut. I rushed to pull it out, but before I could, the creature had grabbed my arm in its meaty fist. I looked up to see it glaring at me with a mad grin on its face. Its fangs dripped with saliva. Picture this axe from Majil. The second I cried out to him, a red blaze erupted from the goblin's back. The creature went up in flames. It turned. I tried to run, but I'd managed to get my hand well and truly trapped. Damn it! If those flames catch my clothes, I'm done for. I focused all my strength on trying to pull my hand free. Plop! Suddenly, I was free and rolling unceremoniously across the floor, wincing in pain. Flames surrounded me had vanished. I lay flat on the floor, almost unconscious with exhaustion. Oi, what do you think you're doing, yo, kid? Give me a break, will you? Give you a break, you can. Did I die? I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Maybe you ain't such a druggo after all. Just goes to show any weirdo that can make something of themselves if they put their mind in it. Kid's eye glinted with mischief. We continued out the path past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. We went inside. Kid gently pushed the heavy doors open and peeked inside. Doesn't look like anyone's in there. It seemed to be the main hall of the manor. There was a massive table, beautiful decorations on the wall, and thick columns decorated with sculptures of birds and beasts. Fixed on the wall in the back towered a tremendous pipe working like a burnished black mountain. Dozens of candles proved a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. Several enormous portraits glowered down from high on the wall. Were these members of Lynx's family? I was busy staring at a painting depicting a young husband and wife when I realized that their eyes had turned to look right at me. Okay, they hadn't. Don't worry. This isn't about to turn into some dumb ghost story. It had just looked that way because the way the flickering light of the candles reflected against the glossy old paints. Obviously, probably. This place gives me the creeps. And get a load of all those ugly mugs. There's nothing for us here Let's look somewhere else. Neither Magio nor I had any objections. We left the hall and returned to the corridor. Eventually, it led us to an intersection. There were some stairs going down, and to the right, a dark side passageway. If we kept going straight on, we'd arrive back at the terrace. Side passage. We headed down the side passage. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. We went inside. Kid gently pushed the door ajar and peeked into the room. The next thing I knew, she'd slipped inside. Jill and I followed. Looks like a sturdy study. The room was lit with the moonlight coming through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. There was rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes. The wall of the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and the shelves of the vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curios from foreign lands. Checked out the paintings. I stood in front of one particularly prominent painting in the wall and examined it closely in a pale moonlight that shone through the window. It was a watercolor of a landscape that could only have come from some feverish dream. Day, night, and all the seasons of the years merged into one in a world that seemed to be melting. I thought I could make out several faces among the chaos. In the midst of the madness sat a small black gem. Red flames serenely flickering within. What was this picture trying to convey? Had Lynx put it here himself? What you looking at, Serge? Found something valuable? Kid came over to where I was standing and picked up a porcelain plate from a nearby shelf. She weighed it in her hand, seemingly appraising its value. Nice little piece, this. Yeah, it must have cost about enough to feed a family for a year. She paused. Not that I give a rat's arse. After all, it ain't the plate's fault some idiot spent that much on it. An almost sheepishly grin flickered across her lips. We'll come back for it later. She gently put it back on the shelf. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't a loud knock, but in the bottomless silence of the night, it might as well have been a thunderclap. Kid and I stood bolt upright and turned towards it. Magio, meanwhile, hid in the shadows, drifting away like smoke. Panic, I whispered to Kid. Hide behind the door in the shadows. Quick, get behind the door! We kept our bodies low as we silently and swiftly made for the back of the door, where the shadows would keep us hidden. We pressed our backs to the wall and did our best to steal our breathing. Slowly, the door opened. Flickering candlelight spread from the doorway with a warm glow. I held my breath, but it seemed that whoever it was didn't mean to come in. They simply stood there. Strange. I thought I heard something. The Lord of the Manor is away, of course. Why would there be anyone in here? I have to get over my nerves. Everything was fine until I heard the news that the Pore was on the move. The figure quietly closed the door, plunging the room back into the darkness. The voice trailed off into a whisper. We remained motionless, keeping our ears prickled for any sign of an unwelcome return. All we heard was footsteps moving away. So Pore had made its move. Magio emerged from the shadows, contemplating the news of what we'd heard. Kid, if the rumors are true, we might as well be able to find ourselves in a very difficult situation. This seemed to set her thinking, too. Pore was a powerful nation that ruled the southern continent. I'd heard it was a prosperous land whose recent and sudden development had pushed it far ahead of its neighbors, which made me wonder, what would its inhabitants want here, out in the sticks? They couldn't be after the Frozen Flame too, could they? As valuable as it might be, a jewel was just a jewel in the grand scheme of things. I couldn't imagine it being an item of national interest. I mean, ultimately, it was just a pretty rock, right? Let them do what they want. If everyone's busy playing soldiers, they won't be bothering us. Come on, got things to do. She headed for the door. We left the room and made our way back to the side passage. We made our way back down the dark side passage leading from the study. Eventually, we arrived back at the intersection. Eventually, some stairs led downward, and the corridor branched left to the right, and the right branch leading back towards the stairs. We went down the stairs. So we slowly crept down the staircase, descending deeper into a blackness as we went. At the bottom of the path split. The way to the left continued to an atrium that resembled sort of a plaza, while the path to the right, winding passageway that trailed off to darkness, went towards the atrium to the left. She poked her head through the arch-shaped door and took a look around. It's big in here. Must be some kind of hall. We took a cautious look around and then entered one after another. Okay, this is where I died last time. The atrium was a beautiful plaza, complete with a statue that doubled as a fountain. Pillars and arch lined the walls, and in the center was a small pool of clear water above which the statue stood. On the other side of the room, I could see another arch entrance like the one we had come through. Oh, that's cold! Kid was scooping up water from the fountain. I went over to her and rested my hand on the edge of the marble basin, peered into the pool below. Shadows flickered under the water's surface. You reckon those fish are rare? As invaluable? Kid leaned right over the edge. I could see the bottom. I wondered how deep it was. The shadow of one of the fish grew larger and larger. Sensing danger, Kid leapt back from the edge. Clack! A fish leapt out from the water and snapped at her, its jaws bristling with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth closed shut on the air, where she'd only been moments before, and with a splash, the fish darted back under the water. Pteranodons! Deadly carnivorous fish with razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws that could snap a monster's horn in half. Staring in horror, I watched as dark shadows began to gather in what a little pool I could make out. Fish teemed at the water surface. Bloody hell, even Kid was uneasy. She took another step back. How many pteranodons were in the pool? The thought of what would happen if they all leapt clear of the water and attacked at once crossed my mind. A bead of cold sweat rolled down my forehead. Suddenly, the water coming from the statue turned crimson and shot out a powerful jet that nearly touched the ceiling. Kid jumped back again. I just stood in shock, watching the torrent of water erupting from the statue. The scarlet waters continued to gush out from the fountain. The pool grew redder and redder and started to overflow. We looked on in trance, but the spell was soon broken. When we realized that the water was starting to flow faster and faster over the rim of the basin, the pteranodons began to jump and snap at the water surface with bloodthirsty glee. I was brought to my senses by the dull slapping of the pteranodons. We hit the floor. We stepped in to deal with the fish. What, you want to try to pick these little ones off by one? Glared back at me, her face in a picture of exasperated disbelief. Don't be a bloody idiot, sir. You want to die here? While I stood there at the mouth agape, a pteranodon sank its teeth in my foot. The jolt of pain surged up my leg, making me jump. What's we gonna do? Rushed back the way we came. Kid, let's get out of here. In the panic, we splashed through the water back to the corridor we came from. The fangs of the pteranodon snapped at my legs, and I felt searing pain, but I had to endure it if I had any hope of reaching the entrance. Breathing heavily, I found myself back at the corridor outside. Damn. Whew, that was a close call. So that whole thing was a trap, huh? Talk about twisted. Lynx is even more of a sick bastard than I thought. I was about to say he wouldn't have had to be if he didn't have to guard against people like her breaking into his home, but I thought better of it. Well, at any rate, I think we can consider that as a dead end. Let's go back. Defeated, we left the atrium. Something caused Kid to stop in her tracks. Hello? Hello? What do we have here? She pointed to the side of the entranceway of the hall. I found myself face to face with the sculpture of an old man face with a truly phenomenal beard. The sculpture's eyes seemed to gleam with life. For a piece of marble, it almost seemed too realistic. It's a mouth of truth, announced Majil. An enchanted statue that can tell when you're lying. If it catches you out, it'll bite your hand off. Majil kept his explanation simple so that Kid wouldn't drift off before he got to the important part. So what it's doing here then? I suspect it's part of a greater mechanism. Stick your hand in it, Gob, do you? Righto, let's see what happens, shall we? With a mischievous glint in her eye, Kid darted over and stuck her hand in his mouth without a moment's hesitation. She stood there for a moment waiting, but it didn't take long for her to get bored. Huh? Nothing. Suddenly, I had an idea. Hey, kid, who's the greatest thief who ever lived? Oh, messy. Ha! Me, of course. You drong. Kid answered without a moment's hesitation, and then suddenly her face twisted with pain. The teeth of the marble sculpture had clamped it down on her head. It bit me, she cried. Knock it off. Everyone knows it's true. Ow! The sculpture bit her again as soon as she spoke. Girl, you little... A cold sweat formed on Kid's forehead. The sculpture was tightening its grip. It won't let go until you say something true. Despite the obvious urgency of the situation, Magia was matter of fact as ever. Just say anything, Kid. Anything, as long as it's the truth. Obviously, Kid wasn't listening. Instead, she just kicked awkwardly at the statue. Oi, Biddy! Let go of me, bloody hand! She planted her feet either side of the mouth and tried the hardest to pull herself out. She heaved, kicked and stamped, grunted and strained. And then finally, her hand popped free. I was taken aback by what I had just witnessed and couldn't say a word. See, told you it was the truth. Kid raised her hand in the air triumphantly as if to demonstrate. I could see heavy bite marks. The sculpture hadn't come from the struggle unscathed either. Kid's attempt to break free had left it cracked in several places. Magia pointed silently at a part of it. I went to take a closer look and saw a pale, flesh-colored tongue. I expect we're supposed to put something there, commented Magia. Something? What exactly? I replied. Kid stood there for a moment, lost in thought, and then she started to unload all of the knickknacks she'd been carrying. It was a strange collection of odds and ends pulled out from her pockets, her boots, and even from her braid. All right, Serge, now it's your turn to have a go at the stupid statue. Kid grinned at me, holding her assortment of knickknacks out in the palms of both hands. I guess she decided that whatever further her horrors the statue had in the store, she'd rather not face them herself. Nice, Kid. Real one. Real nice. Grumbling to myself, I reached out to pick an item. I chose a small silver mirror, a file, a centipede, a tube of lipstick, some dried grapes, a length of fine thread, a sizable petard, a vellum screw. To not waste my time on this. I don't know. A vellum screw. I picked up a particular piece of parchment. Bracing myself, I shoved it into the mouth of truth. A nice one, Mr. Master Thief. You think it's a master scroll or something? Kid doubled over with laughter. Guess that didn't work. With a sheepish chuckle, I pulled it out again. Oops! My hand slipped and the scroll unfurled. It was filled with strange symbols. Noticing the confused look on my face, Majil spoke up. It's a decoding chart used for the Imperial Guard field reports. All gibberish to me. Wouldn't be much of a code if it wasn't, could it? Muttered witheringly. I was too embarrassed to reply. Once I clawed back some of my pride, I attempted a recovery. You'll have to walk me through it sometime. She just pouted and looked away. Oh, so you can't read it either. Boy, can I pick my moments. Fine. If you're not going to take them seriously, we're leaving you behind. Sometimes she could be cold as ice. I'd really done it now. She made to leave, but I grabbed her gently by the shoulder. Look, I'm not messing around. I'm sure the next idea is going to work. I believe it when I bloody will see it. Kid didn't seem convinced. The stakes were high. I looked again at her collection of knickknacks and chose a small silver mirror, a file. What about the lipstick? Let's do the mirror. I took the small silver mirror. The sculpture stared impassively, its marble beard still commanding my attention. I stuffed the mirror into the mouth. It didn't seem to be the right item for the job. Don't see any cavities. yeah, very funny. Now, give me my favorite mirror back before that thing chomps it into pieces. She lost her patience and snatched it off me. It was rather a nice mirror. I pictured her gaze into it as she braided her hair. Do you want to try something else? Asked Majil dryly. Choose. I don't know what a petard is. I pick up the sizable petard. Anxiously, I shoved it inside the mouth of truth, but Nothing happened. Let the professionals handle this. Surge. She shoved me aside. She was holding a match. Wait a second. You can't be serious. All the blood drained from my face. It's deadly serious, mate. Before I could say another word, kid lit the fuse. Dead, bitch. An explosion followed, accompanied by a puff of white smoke. When the smoke had cleared, the mouth of truth came into view once more, still intact, but now very badly cracked indeed. Not quite enough to knock this block off, eh? Should have bought a bigger one. Kid stood there with her arms folded, calmingly commenting on the mayhem she just caused. What do you think you're doing? I can't believe you just set that thing off like that. Kid shot me a look. What do you mean? What else she gonna do with a bomb? So that's what a petard is. She was complete and utter liability. Well, any more ideas, Serge? Asked Kid breezingly. I chose. A length of fine thread. I took a piece of thread, a length of very finely spun silk. It didn't seem like a good idea to just shove it in, so I tried dangling it into the statue's mouth. Watch yourself, that stuff ain't cheap. It's made by royal silkworms. I'll have you know. Kid watched me critically. The thread slipped deeper and deeper into the mouth of truth, and then I felt a slight tug. I tried winding it carefully back around my finger, and at the end of it was a small piece of paper. Nice one, Serge. That's gotta be a clue. Kid's eyes lit up with delight. The note says, try again. We stood in stunned silence. You lucky, tricky piece of... Ugh! Kid ripped up the paper in rage and threw it away, then started kicking the mouth of truth. Magia was leaning against the wall, watching the spectacle in silence. I'm guessing that wasn't the one then. What's next I choose? File? I took the file and placed it inside the mouth of the marble sculpture. It didn't seem to be the right item for the job. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I was stunned. The mouth of truth had started chewing on the file. It was eating it. Ah! Kid screamed with rage. Me file! Me lovely, scratchy, scrappy file! I can't believe you just let that happen. You're in big trouble now, mate. She was clenching her fists and trembling with fury. Sorry, I'll get you another, I promise. I also wanted to add, just don't hit me, but thought better of it. I'll hold you to that, muttered kid in a threatening grumble. If you're just gonna feed the statue all my stuff, we're done here. I promise that's not what I'm trying to do. You better bloody not, mate. Once again, she showed me her collection I chose. Well, shit, girl. None of this shit is working. To not waste my time, I lingered for a moment, but pulled my hand away. It didn't seem like any of them was what we was looking for. All right, let's just forget about it for now, murdered Ken, stowing all her valuables. I was sure we'd find a use for the stuff. Whatever. Best get moving, eh? Defeated, we left the atrium behind us. I feel like I should have tried one more thing. Leaving the atrium behind us, we immediately found ourselves at the fork of the path. To the right was passage leading upward. A dark passage continued directly ahead of where we stood. The passage to the stairway was short. The kid leading the way, we started to climb the narrow staircase. At the top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor to the right would lead us to the dead end with a large door, while the way to the left led to the terrace. The narrow side passage in front of us was open. Let's go back to the study. We headed down the side passage. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. This was the study. We went inside. I think there's something in there. Serge, we don't have time for this. We're not going to magically find something useful by trying the same bloody room over and over again. Let's go someplace else. There was a tinge of annoyance in Kid's voice, but she wasn't being unreasonable. Without some kind of lead, we waste all night trying to find something. We left the room and retraced our steps. Oh, shit. Eventually, we arrived back at the intersection. Branch left and right. Let's take the left branch to the main hall. We continue onward past where the stairs and the side passage emerged to the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. This was the main hall of the manor. We went inside. Kid gently pushed the heavy doors and peeked inside. Looks like the coast is clear. We stepped into the main hall. Oh, we've been in here already. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna read that. We did that already. No, I was just seeing this again. Blah blah blah. Classic opus. Totally happened. Definitely. Okay, maybe. This place is giving me the creeps and get a load of all those ugly mugs. Went down the stairs. Slowly, we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left path. We're going to take the passage straight to the right. We left the atrium and continued on down the path ahead. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers was coming from inside. We went inside. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Kid took a quick look around before commenting, "It's Lynx's girl's room." A half-written letter on the desk and a teacup, still warm, suggested that the lady of the manor was still nearby. But it didn't seem that anyone was here now. We decided to search the room. Some charming flowers, and a discarded cotton handkerchief, and a small bottle of perfume. Nothing that meant much to me, nor anything that seemed particularly valuable. Kid seemed to have the same impression and scanned the room, clearly not expecting to find anything. The only item of note was a small antique box which bore a crest resembling a viper. I decided where to look next. I picked up the small wooden box on the bookshelf. I gently opened the lid and was greeted by a soothing melody. Music box. There's something about that song. I know this tune. Kid was standing next to me. I could see something had changed in her expression. You do, huh, Kid? Someone used to sing it to me. A long time ago, she turned her gaze downward and went silent. Kid? Startled, she turned to me. Her eyelash glistened as if wet with dew. She walked to the door, not saying a word. Hey, Kid, wait up! We left the room. Was she crying? Was Kid crying? Maybe I was just seeing things. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. The path to the right led deeper into the darkness of the manor. We went down the dark passageway, eventually finding ourselves on a sturdy-looking, immaculately polished door. Kid sniffed at the air, just as I thought. Something stinks in here. I reckon we found the beast lair, lads. In the darkness, Kid's lips twisted into a grin that turned bloody cold. We went inside. Kid opened the door and slipped inside. This kind of feel like Resident Evil. Kid opened the door and slipped inside. It was Lynx's room, but he didn't seem to be around. The bucker's gone and scarpered because he heard I was coming. There was something deeply unpleasant about the room. There wasn't anything unusual about the furniture and fittings, not how they looked or how they were made, but taken as a whole, it felt discordant. Was this a reflection of Lynx, a seemingly ordinary facade that hid a disturbing truth only some could see? Right, I bet we'll find the key to the vault in here, or a clue about where to find it. I started searching through the room. The desk, drawers, and the paintings on the wall, the bag vase on the top of the side table. I left no stone unturned. There didn't seem to be anything suspicious. But as I scanned the room, something unusual caught my eye. There was a pedestal in the one corner with a significant-looking scarlet cloth drawn over it. I slowly raised my hand towards it. I carefully pulled the cloth away, revealing a mirror. It was an old-fashioned, of an elaborately decorated style I'd seen before, and in it was reflected a statue of Venus. Suddenly, the eyes of the statue shone with light. What is your desire? The mirror, it's speaking! Kid and Magio ran to my side. And Magio flat. There's no need to panic. It's a whispering mirror, nothing more, said Magio flatly. What's one of those? A magical mirror in which a spirit dwells. The spirit can freely move between its own and the mirrors and will share its wisdom with those who ask. I asked it about Kid's measurements. Oh shit, do you know where the key to the vault is? The mirror's reflection rippled and changed to reveal a room with numerous bookshelves. A deep and sonorous voice spoke. You will find the key in the place. I have revealed the study. It is inside a book with a purple cover in the furthest bookshelf from the door. So I gotta go back to the study. The image of the study vanished from the mirror, and the voice went silent. It appears the spirit. Oh, commented Michelle. To the study then. As I made to leave the room, a low voice rumbled through the air, stopping me dead in my tracks. Beware. He knows. Was it the voice of the mirror again? What did it mean? Hurry up, or we're leaving you behind, Serge, called Kid from outside. Flustered, I rushed after her. The corridor stretched out beyond the door. We retraced our steps. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the left-hand side. It was Riddell's room, Lynx's daughter. We continued down the corridor until we reached the intersection. The corridor continued straight towards the entrance. We took the left leading upward. We took the left passage towards the stairs leading upward. Or should I go to the atrium? Let's go up. The passage to the stairway was short. Kid leading her way up, we started to climb the narrow staircase. At the top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor to the right would lead us to a dead end with a large door, while the way to the left would lead us to the terrace. The narrow side passage in front of us was open. We went to the side passage towards the study. Leaving the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She jabbed her finger at something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale white bundle of something shaking in the shadows. That's strange. I moved in front of Kid to try to get a better look, and then suddenly the strange presence started crawling across the floor towards us at an unbelievable speed. I didn't have time to brace myself, and the white figure reached at my foot, then reared up to its full height. It was a skeleton! The skeleton and I stood face to face, and its empty eye socket staring straight at me, or seeming to at least. What was I going to do? Tackle the skeleton. I charged to tackle the skeleton. Yarr! There was a crunching sound and the clattering of bones as the skeleton was knocked back by the blow. The body split clean in two at the waist. Better luck next time, muttered Kid. As if in response, the skeleton's upper body picked itself up from the ground, turning its skull towards me. Balancing its body with its left hand, it then pulled the skull from its head with its right hand. What's it doing? Before I could get the words out, it had heaved its skull at me. What was I going to do? Dodge. Whoosh! The skull sailed past me and I quickly stepped aside. Ow! Only to smash into Kid, who was standing right behind me. That bloody earth! What did you move out of the way for? She returned the favor by thumping me in the back of the head. Magio walked over to where the skull lay on the floor and stamped on it, shattering it to pieces. The rest of the skeleton collapsed, falling apart with a clatter. It didn't move after that. We're done here. Let's get moving. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. But that was another bloody mess. What did we even bring you for, Serge? Kid's cold stare pierced through me like a javelin made of ice. We headed down the side passage. At the end, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. This was the study. We went inside. Right, let's find this key. Light on her feet as always, Kid moved into the center of the room. What did the mirror say it was again, Serge? She was asking me. How was I supposed to remember? The book with a blue cover on the book near bookcase. Oh. It was something blue, but I don't remember if it was near the bookcase. I'm pretty sure it was the book with the blue cover on the nearest bookcase. Trusting my memory, Kid made for the nearest set of bookshelves. Alright, so we're looking for a blue book. Found it. Picked the book up with the top shelf. Majila and I watched as she flicked through the passages. Her right eye narrowed like a cat as she read through the arcane script, which meant nothing to me. Let's see here. The day of my wedding to the king has finally come. My heart grieves, but I must go. If only I could have been yours forevermore. Tremendous tears welled up in the young elephant's eyes as she spoke. The love and tenderness that filled her heart made the pain of the parting all the more bitter. It felt as if I would tear into two. Kid's voice began to tremble and trailed off. She went quiet, and as I looked at her, I could see tears welling up in her eyes. She noticed me looking at her and slammed the book shut with a start and looked away. Wipe that smirk off your face, Serge. Where's the real book? It's on the far bookcase. I knew it was blue though. I think it was supposed to be the one with the blue cover in the furthest bookcase. Alright, let's see. Seeming to take my word for it, Kid made for the case question. Right, this is the one. Blue cover, blue cover. Aha! This has gotta be it. Kid picked out the book from the lower shelf. Majila and I watched as she flicked through the pages. Her right eye narrowed like a cat's as she read through the arcane script, which meant nothing to me. Let's see here. At his mere touch, her breath quickened. She gazed into his eyes, and he grabbed her hand. Sparks flew whenever he touched her. Soon, she was overwhelmed. Yes! Kid had a face like thunder, and her cheeks were becoming more and more red. Hey, Serge, think fast! Her fist lashed out towards me like a whip. Crunch! My head was filled with exploding stars. Stop buggering around, Serge! Where's the damn book? I'm trying my best here. Feeling the pressure, I racked my brain to remember what the mirror... Wasn't it the blue one? Or was it purple? I felt like it was blue. Maybe it was purple. I think it was supposed to be the one with the purple cover to the furthest bookcase. Alright, let's see. Seeming to take my word for it, Kid made for the case in question. Right, this is the one. Purple cover, purple cover. Aha! It's gotta be it. Majil and I watched as she opened. The pages were hollowed out, and hidden inside was an old key decorated with strange symbols. Nailed it! Nice one, Serge. Kid snatched the key from inside the book. Right, time to finally get a look at this treasure. Having got what we came for, we left the study. We made our way back down the dark side passage leading from the study. Eventually, we arrived at the intersection. Alright. And the corridor branched left and right, with the right branch leading back towards the terrace. We branched to the main hall. We continued on past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. We went inside. Pete said, "Look like the coast is clear." We stepped into the main hall. Oh no, okay, not this one. Alright, yeah. Bypass this. Alright. We returned to the corridor. Eventually, it led us to an intersection. There were some stairs going down in the right in the dark side passage. Right back at the terrace. Went down the stairs. We crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we, at the bottom of the path, lit. The only way left to continue is to the atrium that resembles sort of a plaza, while the path on the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into darkness. We went to the atrium on the left. You gotta be kidding me, shouted Kid, glaring at it. Are you telling me to swim through a bloody lake of piranhas? Yeah, you can count on me, mate. How am I supposed to charm me victims with a big chunk of bitten out of me? I guess she had a point. Here's a better plan. Why don't we go back to the beardy and try to sticking something down its gob? Sure enough, she pulled out a bundle of odds and ends. Do I have to? I asked, knowing the answer. Which is probably just as well, since Kid only glared at me in response. My hand hovered for a moment before I finally reached something I chose. Tube of lipstick? Picked up a small lacquered tube of lipstick and, without knowing quite why, smeared it all over the statue's mouth. What do you mean, lippy? He exploded with fury at the sight of the mouth's truth, big, bright lips, rear lips. What are you doing, getting so mad about? You don't ever wear makeup. That's for marking our paths to make sure we don't get lost. I didn't realize. I guess that would explain why you brought it with you. And what exactly is that supposed to mean? What's so funny about me having lipstick, anyhow? Nothing at all. It didn't take much to tell that this was the calm before the storm. You better buy me some more when we're done here. Yep, she was mad, all right. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just try something else. Kid gave me a doubting glare in response to my apology. Take this seriously, or I'm through with you. I gulped and nodded in a panic, then reached out for the next item I chose. Okay, let's not do this no more. I lingered for a moment and pulled my hand away. I didn't seem like any of them was what I was looking for. All right, let's just forget about it. Storing all values. I'm sure we'll find a use for this stuff. Whatever. Best get moving. Defeated, we left the atrium behind us. We found ourselves in a fork in the path. The right passage, some stairs leading upward. Let's continue along the path ahead. Eventually came an ornate door to the right-handed side. It was Riddell's room. Link started. Continued on our way. It was Link's room. We turned back. I don't know where to go. We were tracing since we came across the door. It was Riddell's room. Continued on our way. Short. I think I've been here already too. Let's go towards the terrace. We kept following the corridor. Short way to corridor running from the right hand side. We find ancient looking door again on our right. Look this way into the clock tower. Continued on. Sturdy looking door on our left. I think this is the one. A little further on step stood a stairway to the well. This door is clearly meant to keep something safe. Some kind of treasure behind it. If me name ain't kid. That's the smell of cold hard cash. Alright, we went inside. This should do it. She slipped the key we found into the lock. Lines of magical lights flashed across the surface of the door and vanished as various magical barriers were dissipated. Up, down, left, right, blue, green, red, green, every color under the sun. And then all was quiet in the darkness of the manor returned. Up, down, left, right, blue, red, green. Right, red. I feel like I need to remember that. With a creak and the heavy door gently swung open. As soon as I saw what was inside, I gave a gasp. Kid stepped inside. Whoa, we hit the mother lode. Out of the darkness loomed a veritable mountain of gold, silver, priceless works of art, exquisite trinkets. Kid looked as if she were on the verge of drooling at the sight of it all. But what thief wouldn't have been? After all, this was the kind of hoard that few people would ever come across in their lifetime. The smallest fraction of this vast mound of riches would have seen even the most careless spendthrift set for life. Our goal is the frozen flame. Ignore the rest, Magil spoke with an icy dedication to our mission. He had not even batted an eyelid at the sight of that greeted us. Yeah, I know. She was disappointed, of course, but she soon set about scanning the room for an object of our hunt. Wait, is that... Look on the pedestal over there. I turned to see what Kid was pointing at. There was a small yet perfectly formed jewel that gave off a pale red light. A jewel that looked like a flickering fire suspended in time. The frozen flame! Silently, Magil walked towards the pedestal. I called out. Wait, we have to be careful. You're right, this is Lynx we're dealing with. After all, I may very well be trapped. We should be on our guard. We need to be quick about this. But fine, have it your way, grumbled Kid, looking away. Magil examined the pedestal for a short while, then paused. We were wise to be cautious. Placing his left hand on the base of the pedestal, he muttered an incantation, drawing quick sigils in the air with his right hand. Some glyphs appeared on the smooth surface and for a moment blazed brightly. There, now we can proceed. Mageo calmly reached out and grabbed hold of the red jewel. Da-da-da-da! Surge and friends obtained the frozen flame. Ooh, we managed to get what we came for without any trouble, horrible happening to us. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned again to Mageo. He was staring silently at the jewel in his hands. Mageo, we did it! Let's get out of it! Before I could finish, the frozen flame crumbled to dust. This flame was fake. Lynx must be keeping the real one somewhere safe. What? Suddenly, a siren rang out. The room was flooded with light, and a metal bar slammed down in front of the door. I turned with a gasp to see Kid frozen and an ornate crown on her hands, and a wide-eyed look of awkward shock on her face. Da-da-da-da! Kid and the friends obtained a golden crown, too. You're kidding me, right? You had to go and you had to complete bonehead. I let rip with a stream of choice insults. In my head, that is. Metallic parents in the four corners of the room suddenly came to life, flapping their wings and screeching, "Rock! Thieves! Thieves! We're in trouble. These things are going nowhere," said Mageo, inspecting the bars cover of the door. Although to look at him, you wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong. Which way? Which way? The parrots! The parrots! To the vault! The vault! We heard voices in the distance. The manor guards were coming. Kid dived behind a pile of gold coins. Find somewhere to hide. In the panic, I looked around the room. There was a large chest sitting wide open next to the pillar. I rushed to empty it out and then plunged in head fast and closed the lid. Captain, there's no sign of anyone in here. No sign. Strange, peculiar, no one has ever escaped before. None have ever fled the mousetrap's clutches. None. I gently pushed up the lid of the chest and peeked through the gap. There were 5 goblins wearing suits of armor, unlocking the gate and about to make their way inside. One of the goblins looked around the room, jerking his neck as he peered into the shadows. Captain, what if this actually was a mouse this time? Chief was grumbling about the mouses the other day. Captain, a mouse, a rodent, a rat? Would a teeny tiny thing like that really have spurred the trap? Replied a stocky, plump-looking goblin. Who must have been the captain? He didn't seem convinced. That was when I heard a strange but oddly familiar sound from the corner of the room. Squeak, squeak! It was coming from where Kid was hiding. Startled, the troop of goblins stopped and looked at each other. For a moment, none of them spoke. Eventually, the goblin captain rubbed his chin through his jaws and offered his thoughts. Mouses? I'm sure Chef was complaining about cats. Meow, meow. That voice again. Again, silence. The goblins only looked at each other. Funny you should say that, Captain. Way I heard it, it weren't a mouse or cat. It was a hecarim. An awkward silence followed. In my mind's eye, I could see Kid racking her brains to work out what a hecarim was. I smell a rat, by which I mean a thief. Following the captain's lead, the guards reached for their weapons and then, Ran. Listen, it's really a hecarim by heck. That proves it. The goblins guards grinned and nodded at each other. Cheeky little devil, surprised me there. Let's get out of here, boys. The goblins filed out of the vault. I breathed a sigh of relief. And then they came charging back in again with a mighty roar. There's no such thing as hecarims. What, you sneaky little buggers, roared Kid, leaping out from behind the pile of gold. You're one to talk, thief! Brandishing their weapons menacingly, the goblins moved slowly forward, forcing Kid into a corner. I quietly eased open the lid of the coffer and slipped out. Can't leave you anywhere, can I? I muttered to myself. I knew Kid could handle herself, but I didn't fancy her odds against a whole troop of heavily armed goblins. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to do, but then I made up my mind. Save Kid. Right! I had to save Kid. There was no way I was going to abandon a friend in need. Even if it meant facing off against a group of 5 goblin guards, I'd find a way to come out on top, I hope. I drew the knife from my belt and leapt into the middle of the room. Hey, snot for brains, over here! The goblins all turned to look at me at the same time. 10 beady, cruel little eyes, all staring daggers at me. Fool, in a hurry to die, are we? I gulped and wondered if making a run for it might be a better plan of action after all. Ah, humans are so stupid, so stupid! The goblin Captain chuckled and licked his teeth. Yep, this one's got a death wish, all right. Why else would he be so stupid as to come for after Lord Lynx's treasure? Ha, that's a first. Being called dumb by a bloody goblin. Try acting tough when you're crying to your mom later on. Judging by Kid's response, she wasn't feeling massively threatened. And you tell her it was Kid who kicked you in the teeth. So you're Kid, are you? Sneaky little slippery little thief we've heard so much about? The goblin narrowed his eyes. Lord Lynx will be thanking me from now until my retirement when I bring him your head on a silver platter. The goblin captain pulled his morning star from his waist and started swinging. You don't know who you're messing with. We ain't no ordinary goblins, sweetheart. We're Lord Lynx's elite guard. The goblins that gobble other goblins. That's right, the Gob Squad. Oh, quit shooting your mouth off and let me stick a boot in it. And with that, Kid launched into a lightning-fast spinning kick. Her boot connected with the side of the goblin's head with a crack, sending the creatures tumbling to the ground. Get him, lads! The boys looked scrawny. Start with him. The goblin captain spun the heavy metal ball of his morning star in the air. Glorious gob strike! Hey! The goblins charged across the room in a response to the captain's command. Gob strike incoming. A goblin rushed towards me, swinging its weapon overhead. Oh shit! I wasn't gonna make it. The morning star swept sideways through the air. I twisted my body to evade it, only for my torso to erupt in pain. Before I knew it, I was sent rolling across the floor in agony. Surge, get out! Spurred by Kid's scream, I staggered to my feet, clutching by my side. I couldn't let it end like this. Another goblin flew down from overhead, bombs away. With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. I jumped up for a counterattack. I was better off attacking than trying for a clumsy dodge. I tackled the goblin head on. Literally, I smashed my skull into the goblin's grim visage as hard as I could. A shock ran through my neck and shoulders like it's been brained with a hammer, but it was worth it. Teeth and spittle flew left and right as the great ugly brute rolled stunned across the floor. A blazing pain seared through my mind and I fell to my knees. Majil conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Majil looked down at his victim, his expression unchanged. Goblin strike incoming. A goblin rushed towards me, swinging his head overhead. I readied myself to parry the attack. I just about managed to push the enemy's attack aside and tried to strike back with my knife, landing a heavy blow right in the goblin's unguarded flank. The goblin's face crumpled in agony. Majil conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it and collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Majil looked down at his victim with his expression unchanged. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. I rolled away. I rolled away across the floor, dodging the attack, but it wasn't fast enough, and the iron ball crashed straight into my back. I let out a howl as the force of the impact thundered through my body. I'd never felt such raw pain in my entire life. I rolled around and the floor in agony. Ha ha ha! Dance for me, boy! Let me hear you sing. As I crawled to the floor, the shadow of the goblin towered over me like a black mountain. Die, brat! His lips curled across the fangs in a leering grin, and it raised his weapon over its head. Oh, no, you don't! You'll have to get through me first! Kid lashed out with the lightning-fast kick. There's more where that comes from. Please, have mercy! The stricken goblin had collapsed to the floor, and its eyes widened with fear. This isn't a game, Surge. Watch yourself, will ya? Long live Lord Lynx. Glory to the Gob Squad. With these final words, the goblins collapsed. That was the last of them. We made it. Ooh, I gotta pee so bad. Oh yeah, give me a second. I gotta pee so bad. Ooh, jeez. Alright, I'm back. And then she stopped and looked at me. Surge, that was pretty dumb getting the goblins to come after you like that. You think you're some hero off to save the princess? Not with those twig arms. Still, you got guts, I'll give you that. Never a bad look. She gave a gentle giggle, and then Majil stepped in. Save the chatter for later. We can't waste any more time here. The frozen flame must be somewhere else in this manor. Alright, mate, thanks for stating the obvious, but it's not my bloody fault that Lynx has to make things so bloody difficult for everyone. Kid spun on her heel and made a sulky about face for the door. Suddenly, her attention returned to a pile of defeated goblins. This bunch of Drogos said that they're Lynx's elite guard, right? Bet they got some nice loot on them. With that, she started unceremoniously rummaging through their fallen captain's pockets. She was like a hyena sniffing for scraps. Hello, what's that? She found an old metal plate. It resembled an old open hand, and it was covered in ruins. Reckon this might open some other magic door somewhere. Well, never know what it might come in handy either. Wait, finders keepers. The plate vanished into Kid's pocket. Looks like there's nothing else worth taking, unless you count pocket lit and bits of string. She rose her feet and looked around the room. You know, it's a real shame to leave the rest of all this loot just sitting here on love. Suppose we come back for whenever. Kid turned to face us and flashed a grin. All right, lads, let's get a move on. It ain't gotta be dark forever. It ain't gonna be dark forever. That handed-shaped plate is our only cue for now, muttered Majil, seeming to himself. And with that, we left the vault in search of a real frozen flame. The corridor outside the room stretched off in the left and right. The path to the right. Ended at the foot of some stairs. We headed upwards. It was dark and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. An old sturdy-looking door loomed at the darkness. We went inside. You still want to go sit in there? Hey, feel free, but I ain't in the mood to get squashed flat to the ground and to glisten. And then she took a careful look around and leaned in close. Don't tell me the torture stuff isn't your thing, is it? I sighed and slumped in my shoulders. Keenly, we headed downstairs. The corridor continued further back towards the terrace. Yeah, we continued on. Suddenly, is there something there? We stepped and listened carefully, but then we heard it. Was it footsteps? Whatever it was coming closer. We waited, and not long after, a towering figure emerged from the darkness. Welcome in, y'all. But, was it footsteps? Whatever it was coming closer. We waited, and not for long after, a towering figure emerged from the darkness. A griffin. A chill ran down my spine. The savage beast was twice my size and resembled a cross between the eagle and the lion. This is like a griffin. We attacked. That's the spirit. Let's do this. Kid grinned madly and balled her fist in eager anticipation. Majil strode confidently from the shadows, flames flickering from his hand. And then the flames surged, coalescing into a searing fireball that hurtled straight towards the griffin. It was a clean hit. The griffin's body had taken an almighty scorching, bellowing the agonizing rage, it charged toward us. A second fireball crashed into the ground, stopping the beast in its tracks. It reared up on its hind legs, staring at us with baleful, maddened eyes, before loudly beating its wings. Its winged beats conjured up a powerful blast of wind that threatened to send us flying. I struggled to stay on my feet. Squinting against the gale through my crossed arms, I realized that the griffin was now right in front of me. Its red eyes stared down at me. The fire on the ground had faded away, and now there was nothing standing in between us. It was going to attack. What could I do? Ducked. Almost by reflex, I ducked the attack. The griffin suddenly beat its wings wildly, sending a barrage of razor-sharp feathers flying right at me. But fortunately, every single one of them flew clean over my head. It had been close shave. I rose to my feet and faced the griffin again. As the beast's mad red eyes glared at me, I desperately tightened my grip with my knife. I attacked. I reversed my grip on my knife and plunged into the griffin's neck with all my might. Rock! The griffin's body contorted with agony. Driven mad with rage, the griffin shook its head this way and that. I quickly pulled my knife out from the neck and rolled away to put some space between us. I quickly got back to my feet and readied myself to attack again. As the beast's mad red eyes glared at me, I desperately tightened my grip on my knife. I reversed my grip on my knife and plunged into the griffin's neck with all my might. The beast screaming, contorted with agony. It done it! I done it! I landed a blow, and a telling one at that. The griffin stiffened, suddenly becoming completely rigid. Its eyes rolled into the back of its head and it fell on the ground with an almighty crash. We did it! We defeated the griffin! I fell to my knees and breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Wait a second. What's that? Wait, oh, there was a leather bag on the ground containing some recently cooked meat. Lucky me, I bit into the meat without a moment of hesitation. After devouring the unexpected windfall, I felt a little better. Boy, where's my share? Busted, I pretended not to hear. I was starting to feel a little worse off for fear. I was going to have to be more careful from now on, or this was going to end badly. Maybe you ain't such a drogo after all. Just goes to show any weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their minds to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. We continued down the corridor, eventually coming across the door on the left. The corridor continued on back towards the terrace. Continuing on down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door to our left. We went inside. No time for baubles. The flowers of flame comes before ours. Yeah, I know. We went into the direction of the terrace. We went to the direction going upward. The corridor ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed upwards. It was dark and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. An old sturdy-looking door loomed in the darkness at the top. You still want to go in there? Hey, feel free, but I ain't in the mood to get squashed flat. I keep going the wrong way. Oh, okay. So it's not this one. Back towards the terrace. We went inside. In we go. The door wasn't locked. It swung open slowly. The room was completely silent. There was no sound of life. Hello? Is any old little ladies in here? No kindly old dears. No more than letting on lurking in the shadows. Come on out wherever you are. Oi lady, show yourself. The silence spoke through volumes. This is a waste of time, pronounced Magio flatly, turning on his heel. Alright, so it's not there. After a short walk, we kept following the corridor. From the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. In the main corridor continued up. We went towards the study, towards the main hall. We went downstairs. What's the main? Leading the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She jabbed her finger across something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale white bundle of something shaking in the shadows. Trying to get a better look. Crawling across the floor towards the unbelievable speed. I didn't have to brace myself. The white figure reached to my foot and reared up its full height. Oh, another one? Damn. I stood face to face, the empty eye sockets staring straight at me. Tackle the skeleton? That's what we did last time. The skeleton was knocked back by the blow. The body split clean in two at the waist. Better luck next time, muttered Kid dryly. As if in response, the skeleton's upper body picked itself up from the ground, turning its skull towards me, balancing its body with its left hand, and then pulled the skeleton from its head with its right hand. What's it doing? Before I could get my words out, it had heaved its skull at me. What was I gonna do? Catch it? Flip! I caught it in both hands and flung it back, slammed it to the floor. I slammed the skull to the ground. It smashed in pieces with satisfying crunch, and as soon as it had the skeleton's torso collapsing in a lifeless heap. It won't be troubling us anymore. Time to move on. I was starting to feel a little worse for wear. I was going to have to be more careful from now on, or this is going to end badly. Maybe it ain't such a druggo after all. Just goes to show any weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eye glinted with mischief. We continued onward past the stairs and side passages and emerged to the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. Gently pushed the door and peeked inside. Looks like the coast is clear. We stepped into the main hall. Okay, so I did this already. So I think I need to go to the one with the wall with the hole in it. That sounds crazy. But the place gave me the creep and get a load of all of those ugly mugs. Left and returned to the corridor. Eventually led us to an intersection. We arrived back at the terrace. We need to go down the stairs. So we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into blackness as we went. At the bottom of the path split, the way to the left continued to an atrium that resembled sort of a plaza, while the path on the right was winding passageway that trailed off the darkness. We took the passageway to the right. Something's there. I quickly looked around to see what it was. There was nothing behind us or in front of us. Where could it be? And then, just as I was trying to figure it out, the wall began moving. A rectangular section opened up and swung around, revealing two enormous goblins clinking to the back. It was like something from one of those stories about assassins sneaking out of old castles. You! Goblins! Screamed Kid. They definitely look like goblins to me. Maybe a touch on the larger side. There were 4 in total, 2 in front of us and 2 that had appeared behind us, cutting off our path to escape. Majil rushed toward the 2 behind us. Meanwhile, Kid leapt at the 2 in front, holding her knife with both hands. I drew my knife and rushed to Kid's side. Crash! The spike ball of the goblin's Morningstar smashed to the ground, crushing the stone flooring. Kid nimbly leapt up into the air, evading the attack, landing on the goblin's exposed hand. She swung upward toward the goblin's head, plunging her knife into its left eye. Then she flipped backwards and stood ready for the next attack. That was Kid style. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Come on, Muhammad. The next goblin charged in, swinging with some morning stars toward me. I tried to copy Kid's trick. If she can do it, so can I. I jumped the moment just before the attack landed. The morning star crashed into the stone tile. All I had to do was next land on the goblin's hand and finish it off with a blade. Swung my knife upward, plunging it into the goblin's left eye. Then I flipped backwards, readying myself for the next attack. My heart was racing. I'd done it. I'd actually managed to copy Kid's trick. I'd always admired the way she fought. I'd always wished that I could fight just like her. And finally, my dream had come true. I'd really done it. Not bad, mate. A compliment from Kid. It was the happiest moment in my life. Boy, wipe this simpering look off your face. We're in the middle of a bloody fight. I should have known it wouldn't last. Here they come. She was right. This is a life or death. My moment of happiness would have to be. The goblin pulled the iron ball out and bellowed with rage as it charged toward me. I threw my knife, using the opportunity to steal the minute. I deflected the goblin's driving strike upward towards the ceiling and aimed an almighty blow to its face with my foot. My momentum unbroken, I turned full circle in the air and landed perfectly back on my feet. immediately moving into the thrust my dagger deep into his chest. Ka-shunk! The blade sank into his up to the hilt. What the hell? I leaped backward to try to put some space between us. Sensing danger, I jumped back. Goblin's hand grabbed uselessly in the air where I had been standing. Had I been a moment later, it would have caught me. I was dealing with a monstrously persistent foe, but having spent the last of its strength, the goblin lost its balance and collapsed, where it succumbed to its wound. I realized that everything was quiet, that fighting had ended. That must have been the last goblin. I was starting to feel a little worse for wear. I was going to have to be more careful from now on, or this is going to end badly. Maybe you ain't such a druggo after all. It's all weird can make something of themselves. They put their minds to it. Kids' eyes glinted with mischief. We went down the stairs and took a passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right side. We continued on our way. Okay, as we turn back. Eventually, he comes across an ornate door on the left-hand side. This is Riddell room. We continue on our way. Let's go inside, actually. I don't know. I think the plate goes to that. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. Knickknacks, well, stately desk, cozy looking bed nearby. Meanwhile, suggesting the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Half-written letter on the desk. The ward suggests the lady of the manor was still near the ward. The window was slightly ajar, bringing in some much-needed fresh air. Leaf? It seemed that someone had been here only moments ago. Let's come back later. We left Riddell's room for now. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. Going right would take us to Link's room. Meanwhile, left would take us to the atrium and another branch towards the atrium. We continued down the corridor until we reached the intersection. We took the left passage toward the stairs leading up. Passage to the stairs was short. The kid leading the way, we started to climb the narrow staircase. At the top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor right would lead us to the dead end with a large door, while the other way led to the terrace. The narrow-sided passageway was in the front of us. At the bottom of the path split, we took the passage to the right. Alright. We gotta turn back. Damn, where do I go? We continue down the corridor until we reach an intersection. The left and the corridor leading to some stairs going up to it. The corridor also continues straight towards that. Let's go to the atrium. You gotta be kidding me. Are you telling me to swim through a bloody lake of piranodons? Yeah, you can count me out, mate. How are we supposed to charm my victims with big chunks of bitten out of me? I guess she had a point. Here's a better plan. Why don't we go back to Beardy and try sticking some... Yeah, so where is that? Oh, here we go. Sure enough, she pulled out her bundle of odds and ends. Do I have to? I asked, knowing the answer, which was probably just as well since Kid only glared at me in response. My hand hovered for a moment before I finally reached for something I chose. And a small... Oh, the hand-shaped plate. There we go, baby. I took the hand-shaped metal plate we found. After taking another look at the ruins, I was no closer to working out what they might mean. Here goes nothing. I stuck the plate into the mouth of the truth's marble maw. As soon as I did so, the eyes rolled upward and the wall gave a light judder. A low rumbling sound came from the sculpture's mouth. This indeed is the ultimate truth of the universe. Did you hear something? Yeah. I watched the mouth of truth in confusion. Its great marble tongue lolled out, almost like a snake. I coiled around the plate, seizing it and pulling it deep inside. What's going on? In a panic, I looked to Magio for answers. Seems this ineffable truth of the universe has left even the mouth of truth tongue-tied. Gio answered in his usual deadpan manner. I think he might even have been trying to make a joke. Hang on. So the plate thingy revealed the truth of the universe? And you went and crammed it down Beardy's gullet? Do you realize how much she could have sold that for? Kid kicked the floor in her frustration and snapped her fingers. And then drains on all sides of the room suddenly opened wide. A red water formed into eddies as it sank away. Helpless, the pteranodons were washed away with the current. Soon, only trickles of water were slowly dripping. Well, that's a stroke of luck, ain't it? Guess we won't be sleeping with the fishies tonight, grinned Kid, looking at the empty pool. We crossed the drain room, making for the exit to the other side, and pressed on. Uh-oh. We went through the atrium and continued down the corridor before finding ourselves in a fork in the road. The corridor stretched off to the left and right. Went down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Bloody marvelous, another bloody door with a bloody magic barrier on it. Wonder what's inside. My sixth sense tells me it ain't treasure. Kid whispered back to us as she examined the door. I suspect that this is the manor's dungeon, replied Magio, his eyes closed in concentration. I could hear the sound of someone moaning in the darkness on the other side. But there was nothing we can do, and thus it is of little concern to us now. Let's turn us back. With no way of getting through the door, we retraced out our steps down the corridor. After making our way down the corridor, we came to a branch in the path. The path on the right would take us back to the atrium with the fountain. The corridor was continued directly ahead, by the way was completely shrouded in darkness. Continue straight on. We continued down the dark, dank corridor until some stairs leading downward finally came into the view. We went down the stairs. We slowly crept down the stairs, descending deeper into the shadows as we went. At the bottom, we found ourselves in another intersection. The dim, narrow passageway branched left and right. Let's go to the right way this time. We followed the corridor for a while before coming across a small door. Get a whiff of that. Something smells good, whispered Kid, sniffing into the air. We went inside. We opened the door. Blimey, it's a smell of small kitchen. Must be for the servants, commented Magio. I scanned our surroundings. A basin for washed dishes, cooking utensils, some food made ready for tomorrow, and a mousetrap. It looked like any other commoner's kitchen. Kid walked over the large pot filled with food and peered inside. Looks like tomorrow's lunch. Want to try some, Serge? I was feeling hungry. Timidly, I peered into the pot. It looked like stew and it didn't smell bad at all. Almost inviting. I scooped up some with a ladle and brought it into my mouth. Gulp. It was delicious. The stuff's delicious. You should grab a bowl, Kid. I urged between bites. Kid was looking at me, staring at me intently. In fact, like she was searching for something. Well, you ain't going green or nothing. Guess it's safe. All right, let's have a try. She licked her lips with anticipation and swiped my spoon right out of my hand. Fancy taste, man? No. Kid grabbed a bowl from nearby and began spooning out more. I did the same. We ate our fill. The stew was still warm, and it felt as though the magic of fresh home cooking was easing the wounds somewhat. Suddenly, this little voice rang out. You there, the young man with the braid. Kid froze. Oi, who you calling a bloke? Kid barked angrily in the direction the voice was coming from. A mouse was looking at us with eyes like saucers from the inside of a mousetrap hanging from the wall in a corner of a room. Oh, I am sorry. You're a young lady, I see. The mouse bowed its head in apology. Please, kind young lady, you must hear me out. The mouse put its paws together and stared pleadingly at Kid. I left the nest to find food for my mother, but as you can see, I managed to get myself caught in the trap. If you leave me here, I will surely be eaten by goblins. Kid eyed the little creature suspiciously. Eaten by goblins? Wait, that stew? Putting two and two together, Kid ran for the stink. Uh-oh. I beg of you, please free me from this trap. My mother is sick and she'll be terribly worried about what has become of me. The mouse was clearly begging for its life, but there was an odd little glint in its eye. Meanwhile, Kid was at the sink. I'm never going to get that text out of my mouth. It'll be buggered if I'm hanging around here any longer. Kid had returned from the sink, only to stamp off towards the door. She was looking very green around the gills. Kindly, young lady. I don't suppose you could free me first. You got yourself into this mess. You can sort it out yourself. Kid all but spat out on the ground as she left the room. The mouse eyes welled up as it looked at me. Young man, please, you're my only hope. It's a talking mouse. Whatever. God, fine. Unable to bear at the sight, staring up any more with the pleading eyes, I lifted down the cage and opened the door. The mouse bounded happily out from inside. The mouse gave a wicked chuckle. You poor naive fool. Suddenly, the body began to balloon massively in size. Oi, Surge! What are you doing? Kid stopped in horror the moment she opened the door. Dang it. Bugger me, a griffin. An enormous creature stared balefully down at us. Idiot humans, my mother is not sick, but yours will be when she sees what I've done to you. Good going, Surge. You're a bloody liability, you are. Oh, okay, maybe I made a mistake, but she didn't have to rub it in like that. The griffin gave an almighty cry and leapt right at us. The razor-sharp talons sliced through the air, raking down towards me. I jumped away with a back. Caught off guard, I tried my best to dodge the attack, but the blow never came, and the griffin suddenly lost his balance and came crashing to the ground. Oh, bother. I'm too hungry to even fight properly. What on earth? I breathed a sigh of relief, running a hand down my chest. All right, little mouse. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Kid walked up to the griffin, cracking her knuckles. Gulp. Please, kindly young lady. This is all a misunderstanding. A terrible misunderstanding. Panicking, the creature leapt to its feet. You can't kill me. I have useful information. If you let me go, I promise I'll tell you everything I know. Everything. Yeah, I know how much a promise from the likes of you worth. Kid took another step towards the griffin, not skipping a beat. Rock, please. Kid kept on coming. The griffin kept on shrinking away. Enough. Magio called for Kid to stop. Let's hear it. Whoa, thank you, kind sir. The griffin was beside itself with relief. Spoil my fun, why don't you? Grumbled Kid, pouting as she turned away. Listen, well, oh merciful savior. Right thrice, left twice, right twice. Should you find yourself trapped in one of Link's swirling snares, remember my words. With that, the griffin returned to its mouse-like form and disappeared into a small hole in the wall. Trapped in Link's snares? It'd be thick enough to walk in one of his traps. Let's get out of here. We wasted enough time already. Ken turned on a heel and made for the door. We left the kitchen. Leaving the room behind us, we took a right down the corridor and followed it before coming to an intersection. The corridor was continued directly ahead, but the way completely enshrouded in darkness. Let's press on. We continued down the corridor until it ended at the large door covered in scratches and other odd marks. Above the door was a wooden plate. The guard room. Elaborately. Well. I reckon this might be where we find the key to the door upstairs. Not getting past that bloody magic barrier without it. Press the ear against the door and listen carefully. We went inside. Kid opened the door. The room seemed completely silent from outside, and we thought would be empty, but inside was a lone goblin. It was sitting in a chair with a book in its hand, a light steam drifting from the teacup on the table in front of it, and with it a delicate aroma. The goblin peered at us curiously over its spectacles. There was something different about this one. I could tell it was as much as a glance. Heavens, how rare it is to have guests. Heavens. Damn, I gotta go soon, y'all. A well-spoken goblin. I could only feel dread and suspicion at the sight of it. Nonetheless. Sorry, mate, but we're not your guests. Cough up the key to the dungeon if you want to live. Kid slammed her knife into the table and illustrated her point, but the goblin didn't so much as flinch. Ah, you must be Kid. What a pleasure it is. I have always wanted to meet you. Why are you even more ravishing than the rumors would? Before the goblin could finish, Kid's knife flew through the air. With a quick flick of her wrist, the goblin caught the blade with the back of his book, a mere inch from his face. I could see your approach is as radical as the name your merry band would suggest, the goblin said, pulling the knife free and handing it back to Kid. She took it without a word, but her gaze had changed. She was like a cat, cautiously studying its prey. And I was just getting to the good part, too. Well, I suppose I have to give up on ever finishing it now. The goblin casually flung the book over his shoulder and into a nearby bin. Allow me to introduce myself, if I may. I'm Charisma, and I'm the guard. I think this is where I'm gonna end it, y'all, because got a little dip coming, so I'm gonna be heading out. But this is getting good. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave right here. I'm gonna just put it in rest mode. And I'm gonna try to come back tomorrow and try to finish it. Thank y'all for being here. For this little stream. We'll get back at it. Oh, hold on. We'll get back at it. I guess I can go do a little quick raid. See who we got on the docket. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the raid, Bussy Witch Boy. I appreciate you so much. Let's show some love to. Let's do it to Eliart. I've been watching her play a couple cool games. I'm gonna raid to her. But thank y'all again so much. I really appreciate y'all for this little, little story time stream. Until then, y'all make sure y'all take care of yourselves. And I'm gonna get on out of here, y'all. But hopefully I can come back tomorrow. That way we can like finish this, because I really want to jump into Chrono Cross very soon. But yeah, thank y'all again. Ooh. Until next time, peace.